Chapter 4 Federal Reserve System. During the Industrial Revolution, Cornelius Vanderbilt, Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, and Henry Ford built companies that attracted demand for American currency. Investors around the world needed U.S. dollars to purchase shares of these companies. However, many were wary of establishing a central bank to facilitate the issuance of U.S. dollars due to the United States' political background with centralized authority like the British monarchy. At the time, private sector banks provided the role of issuing currency in the country. The Coinage Act of 1792 established the U.S. dollar as the country's official unit of account. With the rising trend of countries adopting the gold standard of 1900 officially pegged the US dollar to gold. In 1906, a massive earthquake in San Francisco caused great destruction of property. One thing led to another, and a bank run had started on smaller and larger banks in the United States. To save the financial system, J.P. Morgan had to step in and provide liquidity to keep the banks afloat. And to prevent another situation where a private banker was necessary to prevent a financial collapse, the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 created America's central bank, the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve Act gave the Federal Reserve 4 powers. The first power was the creation of a unified second layer of money called reserves. This gave the Federal Reserve control over the second layer of money, which allowed it to possess similar powers that the Bank of Amsterdam had in terms of surveillance of its economy. The second power gave the Federal Reserve and the banks within its system to utilize fractional reserve banking. The third power allowed the Federal Reserve to act as a lender of last resort during a financial crisis, eliminating the need for a private banker to step into the role like J.P. Morgan did in 1906. The fourth power gave the Federal Reserve sole power to issue bank charters and the ability to create a third layer money. The Federal Reserve Act of 1913 also required the Federal Reserve to hold 35% of its total assets in gold. At the time of creation, gold represented 84% of the total assets held. Over time, this requirement lessened, and today, gold represents less than 1% of the Fed's total assets. With the creation of a central bank, the pyramid of layered money was clearly defined in the United States. In the first layer, there is gold and U.S. treasuries. In the second layer, there are reserves and notes. Reserves are wholesale money that are issued to private banks within the Federal Reserve's network. Notes are the U.S. dollars utilized by everyone. The third layer of money is facilitated by private sector banks and include retail deposits made by the ordinary people into their bank accounts.